All right, Roto Grinders, welcome to the first week of the NFL season for 2014. Super excited to be bringing you our first show on a Sunday morning with football. Our viewership going to climb throughout the morning here. And just a little scoop on what's going on. The guys out in Vegas are getting a sweet setup to have some high-speed internet for the broadcast so that they don't have any hitches with their internet connection. That doesn't open until 8 a.m., so they're not going to be on until about 11 Eastern Time, so I'm going to have to carry the weight of the show for the first 15 minutes here until they get on. And then we'll have Dean and Draft Cheat with you for about a half an hour up until 11:30, and then our flagship game day show with DB, Al Smizzle, and Tip and Pick will start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So we've got you covered here for about an hour and 45 minutes heading up to kickoff. And what I'm going to do is take questions at the beginning of the show because I want to wait to get into most of the picks until the other guys get here. So we'll get the Q&A at the beginning of the show today, switch it up a little bit. If you haven't been around with the announcements for the first week of NFL, huge tournaments across the industry, especially the two big sites, DraftKings and FanDuel, both with qualifiers to their major championships right out of the gate at different prize pools, $1,000 qualifiers, $200 qualifiers. FanDuel's running some $25 and $10 qualifiers. DraftKings has some low-dollar qualifiers as well. Huge GPPs outside of those. The big Sunday Million tournaments. FanDuel's filled yesterday a 44,000 entry tournament that filled on Saturday. Simply incredible. So they've thrown out an NFL bomb tournament at the same $25 entry fee, and then DraftKings and FanDuel both with huge $200 GPPs. Simply action everywhere you want to get it. There's low-dollar GPPs with big prize pools. No matter what price point you're playing at, there's going to be a tournament that fits you today, and then, of course, head-to-head GPP action. Bankroll management going to be the key for NFL season. I know it's really hard to maintain that discipline. I'm guilty of it myself. Did pretty good with the first 2 weeks of college football, but boy, seeing all those NFL games out there today makes it really, really tough to focus on entering the dollar volume of games that you had planned on at the beginning. So just keep that in mind. Don't play more than you can afford to lose. Even though it's tempting to go after some of these big prize pools, keep your bankroll in mind, and it'll make the experience more enjoyable for you. So we're going to get to questions at the beginning of the show here, so please fire them up in chat. I'll get to questions here for the next 10 minutes until the other guys get on. Everyone wants me to do a Sunday fun day. We're going to save that. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the show. To tease. So questions. Put them out there in the chat. EMAC already wants wants me to talk about Bernard Pierce and his 2.9 yards per carry. I like him as a cheap play today. I mean, he's 4,800 on DraftKings. He's not glamorous, but I think he gets the job done. That Cincinnati defense a little bit weakened this year. I'm not sold on him. The Ravens playing at home. He's going to get 20, 25 carries. I don't think he's a lock for anything by any means, but 70, 80 yards, a couple catches out of the backfield should pay off that really, really cheap price tag. All right, Detroit Colts 44. Ball, Graham, and Jeffrey, or Charles, Gronk, and Colston. I'll take the first one, Ball, Graham, and Jeffrey. I'm not on Gronkowski this week. I want to see him play a full week healthy and get a good complement of snaps before I get on Gronkowski. For that reason, I think Graham is actually a much bigger step up than Gronkowski this week. I like Jeffrey over Colston pretty easily, and I don't think the drop down to Monte Ball from Jamal Charles is enough to overcome the difference. So take your first pairing there, Detroit Colts 44. Cards, your take on John Brown with Ellington as a game-time decision. I'm going to avoid that whole situation. Just a little too much risk for me, especially since the Cardinals don't play until Monday night. People asking about some tight ends. I've seen some stuff in the chat about Kelsey, Amaro, Ladarius Green, and Zach Ertz. As of right now, especially on DraftKings, I think Ladarius Green is the guy you want to put in your lineups. The Cardinals really struggled against tight ends last season, and if Antonio Gates misses this game, it's a fantastic matchup for Ladarius Green. On FanDuel, it's a little more risky, but I still think Green will get the snaps either way. On FanDuel, I think I prefer Ertz. Kelsey's a decent option with some injuries there in Kansas City, but I just don't think the volume of passes is going to be there. So he's third on that list for me. I'm not touching Amaro yet till he gets some NFL experience. But on DraftKings, I definitely think Ladarius Green is the play there. Let's see. Would you use McCoy and Charles in a GPP together? Yes, absolutely. If you need to, if you take Sean Hill, it really opens up Sean Hill at quarterback. It really opens up the rest of that lineup for you. Thoughts on Dwyer? I'd only use him as a flex on DraftKings where you can swap him out if Ellington plays. Let's see. Carson Palmer or Phillip Rivers? Probably neither. If you're going in that range, I just am not sold on Phillip Rivers having another solid year. I'm not touching Carson Palmer. Didn't look that great in the preseason. I'd look elsewhere for your mid-range quarterbacks today. Cotterell Patterson against Vincent Jackson. If that's a GPP, I'll go Patterson. If that's a cash game, I'll go Jackson. He's much safer, but I like Patterson's upside. Receiver to pair with Brady. If you're looking for a Patriot, I think you've got to go with Edelman. He's cheap on DraftKings, and he's certainly going to get the volume of passes thrown his way. Edelman's a pretty safe target on DraftKings this week. Is Gerhardt a better punt running back than Pierce? It depends on who you ask. I'll give a slight edge to Gerhardt, but he's also more expensive on most sites. On FanDuel, I think they're the same price or right around the same price, and I would probably go Gerhardt there. But on DraftKings, at about $800 cheaper, I think Pierce is the play. Where do you rank Forte relative to Charles and McCoy on half and full PPR sites? Forte, Charles, and McCoy are all very good pass-catching backs, so I don't think there's a difference between half and full PPR sites with them. But I have Forte closer to Charles and McCoy this week than most people do. Really high on him. Like him a lot on DraftKings with that full PPR. But if you're comparing him to Charles and McCoy, like I said, not much of a drop-off there in terms of pass-catching ability. But yeah, I've got Forte pretty high this week. Probably got him slightly ahead of Adrian Peterson as my number 3 overall back. Gerhardt or Pierce, I just touched on that. Do I like Geno Smith? No. Taking a wait-and-see approach with him. If you're going with a Jet, I'd prefer Decker over Geno Smith. I think Decker's going to get a good volume of targets in that offense, and I think Decker's the play at wide receiver more so than taking a chance on Geno Smith. Thoughts on LeGarrette Blount? No thanks. Do I like Spiller? Not exactly with the news that's come out. That he's going to be returning kicks, and they've got the pass catching back there. They've got 3 guys, and Fred Jackson's always the goal line back. So I don't think so. Spiller definitely only for a GPP. I'm just not that high on him today. The workload's not going to be there for him. Rank the Jacksonville wide receivers with Cecil Shorts out. That's a good question. Marquise Lee is the only one I would play. Love him for GPPs. Has a lot of upside, but not the consistency for cash games. Obviously, he's a rookie, but Marquise Lee is the one you want to take a look at. I'm not really a big fan of Allen Hurns just yet, but Marquise Lee for GPPs, totally sneaky, really good cheap play today. I think more people will be on him. Stephen Ridley, I never play. 1 fumble, he's in the doghouse for the rest of the game. I can't tell you the last time I've rostered Stephen Ridley. It'll save you a lot of heartache to just not take him. Vereen's the guy on a full PPR site that you want from that New England backfield. Just don't touch Stephen Ridley. Smart to fade Emmanuel Sanders and GPPs. Great question. I think it's going to be one of the most popular questions of the day. Definitely on FanDuel. I'm not sold on Emmanuel Sanders' price on FanDuel. I think it's a bit high. On DraftKings at $4,800, it becomes a bit more of a question. But in GPPs, I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is going to be so highly owned that you can definitely make bank by fading him in GPPs. And on DraftKings, what I've been liking to do with some of my teams over there is pairing Peyton Manning with Demaryius Thomas and leaving Emmanuel Sanders off. It'll give you a big boost if those two go off, and then Emmanuel Sanders, doesn't have a game that's up to par. Let's see. Tate McCoy or Ball and Sanders in a GPP. I like both combos. I think I'd probably go with Tate McCoy. If it's a tiebreaker scenario there, I generally like to go with the two guys that are going to get the most touches. Tate and McCoy, both 3-down backs, and you got 2 running backs there. So that's the pairing I would go with that combo. Crabtree or Cruz? I like the upside of Crabtree, but Cruz is safer for a cash game with the volume of targets he's going to see in that offense. So Cruz for a cash game, Crabtree for a GPP. Golden Tate, yes, I like Golden Tate this week. Calvin Johnson takes so much attention away. I think Golden Tate is going to shine in that Detroit offense as the number 2 receiver in a dome with a passing offense. Just a much, much better situation for Golden Tate in Detroit than you saw in Seattle. So Golden Tate, one of my favorite lower-cost receivers of the week. Don't know how under the radar he'll be, but in that Monday night game, I think he's a great play. Thoughts on Roddy White or Julio Jones? I like White for the discount. Jones is the safer play, but I think you can get by with one or both of them today. I think on most sites they're priced about right where they should be, with Jones a little bit higher, but I don't mind taking Roddy White at the discount, especially on a full PPR site. Thoughts on using 2 tight ends on DraftKings? Don't do it. I'd never use 2 tight ends. Maybe a little bit of an argument today with how cheap Julius Thomas is over there on DraftKings, but I almost never do it. There's just not the upside there with 2 tight ends. Decker or Edelman? Depends on price. I think they're comparable in terms of ranking, so take whoever's cheaper. A couple people asking about Zach Stacy. I'm not touching Zach Stacy today. Benny Cunningham's going to have a role in that offense. Now, how many carries that's going to be, I don't know. And they're still debating over who's going to be the starter. And Cunningham did fairly well last year, so I've actually got Benny Cunningham on one GPP team today as a flyer, so I'm not going near Zach Stacy today. I'm not touching the New Orleans backfield. I've seen some people. It's just so hard to predict with how New Orleans is going to roll those guys. With Mark Ingram, it just the waters are muddied, and so many of their touchdowns come through Drew Brees that trying to pick a needle in the haystack in the New Orleans backfield is next to impossible. So I'm not going there today. Woodhead or Fred Jackson on a PPR site? I'd probably go with Fred Jackson there, but I don't have a strong feeling either way. Number 1 defense for FanDuel cash games. I've seen people all over the map with defenses this week. I'll just throw out a few I like. I like the Panthers against Tampa Bay, and I like Tampa Bay too. I think this game could be fairly low scoring. Rumors are starting to come out now that Cam Newton might not play today, and that's a huge downgrade to the Carolina offense. So both defenses in that Carolina-Tampa Bay game could be in play. I do like the upside of defenses like the Rams and the Lions, even the Saints for GPPs against Atlanta. I'm really high on that Saints defense this year. They're going to be much improved. Tough Week 1 matchup, but I think they're a good flyer for a GPP. The Bears defense, I think, could be in play against Buffalo. Those are kind of the Jets are a good play on FanDuel where they're still relatively cheap. Derek Carr making his first start for Oakland, so I like the Jets on FanDuel. Chris Johnson, not going there with a 10-foot pole today. Just too much risk with him. Let's see. Somebody's saying Lions 34, Giants 10 in the chat. That's probably a reasonable prediction. Let's see. I'm having trouble keeping up with the flow of the chat. We got almost 350 people in here now, which is awesome to see. Ruben Randall or Golden Tate? I'll go with Golden Tate. Again, echo the sentiments I said earlier. Love Golden Tate and his upside in that Detroit offense this year. Thoughts on Shaun Hill to stack the rest of the lineup? Absolutely. I'm even doing it on a few cash games today. Don't be afraid to do that. I mean, Shaun Hill's a capable quarterback going against a bad pass defense in Minnesota. People seem to be skittish about doing that. I'm not afraid to do that today. He's definitely my favorite cheap quarterback. And if you're thinking about a guy like Phillip Rivers or Carson Palmer, just as well go down to Shaun Hill at that point. And you can really stack the rest of your lineup with studs. I don't think that's a bad play at all this week. Simpsons or Family Guy? Simpsons 10 years ago, Family Guy now. Simpsons has kind of run its course for me. Let's see. McCoy and Fred Jackson or Ball and Frank Gore. I think you got to go with Ball and Frank Gore there. Again, go with the guaranteed touches. Frank Gore is underpriced on quite a lot of sites today. Where are my co-hosts? Touched on that at the beginning of the show. They're getting a sweet setup in Vegas for the shows today. DP troll in the chat. So the co-hosts will be here in just a little bit. Let's see. Brady and Alex Smith or Luck and Romo must be on a 2-quarterback side. I'll go with Luck and Romo there. Alex Smith doesn't give you much upside at all. Thoughts on Bolden for a GPP with Crabtree a little hurt? Crabtree's fine. I know he's listed as questionable, but he's fine. I wouldn't let that affect your decision at all. Bolden's really not a guy for a GPP. Doesn't have a ton of upside. Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey man, what's going on?
I've reversed the normal course of the show and just took questions at the beginning today. So I've been doing that for about 10-15 minutes till
Perfect.
you guys.
Thanks for running the show while we got set up here.
You look wide awake.
I got to bed late last night because I was building lineups, and then I got up early this morning and I was building some more lineups. So we're ready to go. We got almost 300. We got over 350 people now in the chat. So football's a big thing on here. So how's the party out there?
It was a lot of fun last night. I'd say we both maybe had a few too many, but we're ready to go. Obviously, excited for the games, and looks like overlay everywhere. So I'm sure you'll be firing in some teams as we get started here.
Yeah, it's and also at the beginning, bankroll management is almost impossible with this first week of NFL.
Overrated.
It's so hard, but there's basically games for everyone out there today. I mean, no matter what price point you're playing at, GPPs galore, FanDuel, DraftKings. Looks like there might be some overlay, but props to FanDuel for filling that Sunday Million on Saturday with like 44,000 entrants. That's how big this NFL season is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, and I mean, certainly if you want head-to-head, that's out there too. 50-50s, like you mentioned. Any game you want to play, there's really, any price point, any game type, you can certainly get in there. So should be a fun day. We got limited time here. We do have more shows coming up, but let's jump into some picks. Have you talked about quarterbacks, or have you just kind of been going over industry stuff?
I did a general industry stuff and then did a Q&A for 10 minutes, and I need a little break from talking for a little bit. So Dean and DC, I'll let you give out some quarterbacks first, and then I'll chime in after.
Why don't you break down quarterback, what you're looking at?
All right, so first question I had was Peyton Manning. Obviously, Peyton Manning is going to be a lock tonight as far as what is his floor? 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. At home, Indiana, revenge game, 55 over-under. He's a favorite. Indianapolis has a horrible defense, but do you pay up for Peyton Manning in a cash game? I started this week at yes. Now I'm kind of like at nah, I'm not so sure because there's a lot of guys I want. Where are you at as far as Peyton Manning in a cash game? Is he somebody who's locked right in, or you're looking elsewhere?
I mean, personally, he's the safest option, I think. The highest over-under, like you mentioned, he is at home. I think in fresh in people's minds is obviously his last game against the Seahawks when the Broncos got destroyed. But we saw what he did last year against bad defenses. He does not have bad games. I mean, he's set up here to have a huge game. I think. He's got weapons. Obviously, Decker's gone, Welker's gone, but other than that, he's going to be good. And I have no problem paying up for him in cash games. And I think he's even a decent tournament play today. I don't think we'll see a super heavy percentage of the field on him.
Yeah, I think that's about my thoughts on it. I've got him on a good chunk of my cash games lineups. It's so hard to pass up the guaranteed floor there, especially in that matchup. If they were playing a team with a good secondary and he was at that price,
right?
At that point I could see just playing the fade on him, but definitely some exposure I think is a good thing today. There's going to be a lot of points in that game.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, going down the list farther, I think the second option, clear number 2 for me really, Drew Brees. He another guy that he just performs when he's up against a poor defense. Certainly, I think Atlanta's defense, nothing to write home about. It is on the road, where Breeze does not have the same numbers he has at home, but in a dome, I'm not really worried about him. Are you high on Drew Brees, Dean?
Not as high as I should be, probably. I'm either paying up for Manning, or I'm going to probably go down a little bit to Colin Kaepernick, Dallas. So, in basketball, we pick on the 76ers. In baseball, we look at Coors Field. I think this entire year we're going to be looking at who's playing Dallas.
Yeah.
They're playing Dallas. Lock them in. There you go.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick. Their defense.
On the Thursday show with Emac and Brian Fontaine, we touched on that a little bit. I think that Dallas defense has a chance to be historically bad this year. So I think some people are sleeping on Kaepernick. I know they were terrible in the preseason.
Yeah.
But Vegas has the 49ers as a road favorite in this game, and that total is over 50 as well. So I think Kaepernick's good around the mid-tier, and I think you'll see a lot of people on Nick Foles as well. People like to gravitate towards that Eagles high-flying offense too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, just to go back to Kaepernick quickly, you mentioned Dallas's defense. I think everybody, the cat's out of the bag there. That defense is going to be awful. They were awful last year, and they lost, Sean Lee, DeMarcus Ware, two of their best defenders. And Kaepernick is just a superior athlete. I don't think Dallas has the personnel to contend with him. I think he'll do damage, with his legs and with his arm. And, I think he's got a pretty high floor today, but also a ceiling that, makes him rosterable in GPPs.
So here's the thing. We are on limited time. Dan and Al will be on at 11:30. We have like 23 minutes to run through some things. I'm just going to throw out some names. You guys give me like 8, 9, maybe 10 words. No more than 11 words. That would be outrageous. That's too many words. But just give me your thoughts. SDL, you're going to go first. Thoughts on Luck?
I think he's probably a better play for GPPs. Don't really like his price for cash games.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay, Smoking Jay Cutler.
I'm a fan. I think Chicago puts up points today. I'm just worried that they could come on the ground.
Yeah, I like him. I'd take him over similarly priced guys like Matt Ryan and Robert Griffin, but I think he's probably 7th or 8th overall today.
Carson Palmer.
No thanks.
Yeah, no thanks for me too.
Do you dare Eli Manning in a tournament if you have 1,000 lineups?
Nope.
I've got him on 2 GPP lineups on DraftKings.
There you go. There's a sucker.
Those are going to get last place.
just 2. Only 2. That's all.
Stop there, Card. Stop there.
Yeah, too many. Who are you pairing him with, Randall or Cruz?
One of each.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Sean Hill.
Not for me. I think he's going to be a popular play. I even saw a lot of people playing him in Thursday head-to-heads. I think the Vikings will be better than people expect, and I'm not on Sean Hill today.
Oh, you think the Vikings? Oh, you do? Really? Where are you from again?
I do. I'm from the great state of Minnesota, where the Vikings play.
No correlation there? Yeah. Just a coincidence?
No.
All right, fair enough.
I'm buying into the hype of the local media, I'll say that.
I think he's rosterable, not on the merit that I think Sean Hill's going to throw for 300 yards, but for the fact that if you roster him, you can stack the rest of your team, and I think that's the merit. And if he just has a serviceable game, then he's playable for cash games. But if he bombs, you're probably dead in the water. But a total bomb against the Vikings at home in a dome, I think he'll at least be serviceable enough to keep you in your games if you take him. And the ceiling is obviously deep.
I worry. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I worry about the pace of that game in general. I think if the Rams are able to move the ball on the ground, they will do that. I think the Vikings are kind of the same way. So I could see that kind of being a low-scoring game. Certainly Vegas thinks that, and I just don't see a ton of upside for Hill there, but you never know.
You guys just completely destroyed the 11-word rule on Sean Hill, just so you know.
It's Sean Hill. I mean, we got to talk.
We got to talk about Sean Hill. Dedicate. We have 22 minutes to work with. We got to give at least 7 minutes to Sean Hill.
Exactly.
Okay, so any other quarter? Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady is going to be like 3% owned, if not lower, and he can. And when they want to, it's kind of like Belichick is. Belichick's like Popovich. They're going to be successful. You're not exactly sure how. They can score 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Yep.
Brady can throw him if he wants to. Is he interesting for a tournament?
Yeah, I actually wrote him up in my Roto World article, about qualifying for the FanDuel FFFC, just because he's going to have a tiny ownership percentage, and he does have that upside. I mean, he's got his players back. Gronk is going to play today. Edelman and Amendola. I mean, he's got his full range of compliments. Shane Vereen is a good player, and their running game is a little bit in flux, I think. I don't know how much they trust Stephen Ridley. I could see him throwing for 3 touchdowns today.
Cards.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You're going to see people at that price point gravitate towards Jay Cutler, maybe even Tony Romo. So yeah, I think Brady's a good contrarian pick today.
Any other quarterback you want to mention before we talk about some running backs?
What's your thoughts on Geno Smith?
I'm not really on him. I mean, I see the merit. I think he's an interesting pair with Eric Decker, of course, who we'll get to, who I think is a really good play today. I've talked to some smart people that they like Geno Smith. They think he'll scramble for some yards. He did pick it up, toward the tail end of last season. I see a little bit of merit there, just not something I'm personally looking a lot at.
How about you, Dean?
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. I think it's a sneaky tournament play, I suppose. Did we not mention Tony Romo? Did I not say Romo? Yeah. I love Romo today. Love him for a tournament.
So, we're talking about every quarter. It seems like all these quarterbacks are good plays. That's kind of how quarterback goes, Season long, you see weight on quarterback. There's talent there, and I don't think these big tournaments are going to be won and lost at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Romo, I think San Francisco defense is just kind of like some people see San Francisco and they just kind of pivot off automatically, but they're not to be feared. This is not the defense from last year.
Yeah, if you're in a tournament and you're taking Romo, you almost have to pair him with Bryant. Then obviously you get huge upside there.
What about Williams? Is he sneaky?
I don't know. I'm neutral.
I like his salary. I think he's a talented kid, but it sounds like he's dinged up a little bit. That has me a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
If I'm taking Romo, I'm just gonna go chalk, pair him with Bryant. Bryant obviously super talented, capable of a monster game.
All right, moving on from quarterbacks, running backs. We got Charles, McCoy, Forte, Peterson, all at different price points, and then there's like Monty Ball right there. Cash isn't an issue. I'm sorry, money's not an issue. Salary's not an issue. Top running back is
Jamal Charles for me.
STL?
I'll still give Charles a slight edge over McCoy, but obviously he's the most expensive everywhere.
Where you at, Dean?
I was on McCoy, and I've kind of moved over to Charles as well. But cash is an issue, and it's just enough to make me think, okay, maybe I'll pick McCoy. I feel like McCoy's the cash game guy, and Charles is a tournament guy, unless, of course, you have the money. And I feel like that's the percentages are going to show that. Nobody's going to have Forte. Not a lot of people are going to have Peterson. I think Monty Ball is going to be very popular because the discount's just enough. And, again, we want to pick on Indianapolis. And, I could see a couple touchdowns for Ball today.
Yeah, I like Monty Ball, too. I do think he'll be popular. I worry. Obviously, we think he's going to be the number one back. We think he's going to be out there every snap. But we haven't actually seen him operate in that role. What happens if he fumbles? Is he the same lock that these other guys are? I'm not sure. I like Ball. He makes me just a little bit nervous.
You know who the lock was last year in Week 1? Everybody and their brother and their brother's mother and their brother's mother's wife was on David Wilson Week 1 last year.
Yeah.
And David Wilson fumbled twice and I think put up a negative point total. So, I think the best play, honestly, for tournaments today is Forte. I love him in that offense. Yeah. Catches a ton of passes, and with Michael Bush gone, it opens up for Forte to be the goal line guy and pretty much be out there all the time. Kadeem Carey has been elevated to their number 2 back, and he was terrible in the preseason. So basically, the Bears have nobody else. I think Forte, especially at 8,300 on DraftKings, he's a really, really good tournament play because most people are going to be on McCoy, they're going to be on Ball, they're going to be on Charles. So don't sleep on Forte and even Peterson for GPPs. Obviously, we know what he can do if he breaks one.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Are you guys getting the same sense that I'm getting, around the internet, reading articles, following Twitter, that everyone is saying Charles or McCoy? And for me, I don't see why Matt Forte, I project him just below those guys. If I could get Forte at 10% when Charles and McCoy are up near 25, 30, 35% in GPPs, that's a proposition that I like a lot.
Yeah, that's That's fair. And I think, is Peterson going to be less? Well, Peterson's probably going to be around 15%. Is that fair? Is that a fair?
I might say even lower. I'm not hearing anyone talk about him. He didn't play a snap in the preseason. I don't know if that weighed into him. The Vikings are road dogs. All these things are, I think are going to reduce Peterson's ownership percentage. Obviously, he's capable of a huge game here, and I like him.
I like DeMarco Murray for a tournament. I say like those Cowboys. I can see him catching a ton of passes today. Especially in catch-up mode, assuming he doesn't get concussed or tweak anything. He's a little fragile, DeMarco Murray.
Yeah,
but
a little.
Today.
Thoughts on Murray cards?
No, I don't know. I'm not convinced that Lance Dunbar isn't going to have a bigger role in that offense than people think. I'm just a little too worried about him today. I don't think I'm going there, but you get upside with him for sure until he gets hurt.
I love the price points of we got Fred Jackson who's really cheap. I think he's going to be a phenomenal. I think he's really safe. He's going to be the goal line guy. He's probably going to be on the field at least 60% of the time. They're saying C.J. Wilson, he's not playing today. C.J. Spiller will be doing special teams. You know, I think Fred Jackson, especially on DK, is just too cheap for me.
Yeah, I like him too. 4,400 on DK. It looks like he's pretty much a lock for the goal line work. And if preseason, pass catching rates are any indication, he should be in there. If the Bills fall behind and do have to pass against the Bears. So Fred Jackson, I'm with you. I think he's a pretty good play.
Cards?
Yeah, I like him at that price point. The Bears' run defense was atrocious last year. I know they've gotten some upgrades in the offseason, but 4,400, hard to ignore that. A little worried about his role, but at that price tag, you can't complain. Let's touch on some of the other guys that are kind of in that mid to low tier. If you're on DraftKings specifically, Bernard Pierce starting with Ray Rice suspended, Ben Tate at 5,200, Frank Gore at 5,200, Toby Gerhart at 5,600. How about those four guys? Rank those four: Gerhart, Gore, Tate, and Pierce.
Gore's one.
You have Gore one?
I have Gore one.
Finish your rankings, Dean. Go ahead.
Gore. Tate? Tate's going to get so many carries. I feel like he's just going to be like that offense today. He's going to get over-under Tate carries 21.
I'll take the under, but I do like Tate.
All right. Pierce, and it was Pierce. Who was the fourth guy?
Pierce and Gerhart.
I know, maybe I'm being. I have Gerhart fourth there. I don't know. Pierce then Gerhart.
Yeah, for me, Gore and Tate are the top two there. I'll take Tate over Gore. I'm not as high on Gore as some are. I know San Francisco's expected to score a lot of points here. They have Carlos Hyde, a talented runner. They spent a high draft pick on him. I'm just not totally convinced that Gore is going to see a huge workload. So I have Tate over Gore, and I'll take Gerhart over Bernard Pierce. I haven't been really impressed with what I've seen from Pierce, I guess.
And you cards?
Pretty much on par with what Peter said there. I think it's close with Tate and Gore, but Carlos Hyde's a good back. I had a chance to watch him quite a bit at Ohio State, so and Gore's got a lot of miles on those legs. So I'll take Tate, and the volume is certainly unquestioned with him. But I definitely put Gore second, and then Pierce and Gerhart would mainly come down to price. I do like Pierce a little bit better on DraftKings, where he's $1,000 cheaper. But on FanDuel, they're the same price, and I'd probably take Gerhart there.
The thing with Gore is I think there's risk there. I mentioned, playing time issues. They do have Carlos Hyde, and I just don't see the upside to risk Gore, where I'm just not sure, what his workload is going to be. So that's why I'm not quite as high on Gore as some are.
We can also throw Rashad Jennings in the conversation. 5K, pretty tempting. Not bad. Suppose he's going to catch a lot of passes. I know Detroit has a solid front seven, but I can see him get a lot of dump-off passes, especially if the Giants are playing catch-up mode and Manning is freaking out there with a bunch of guys chasing him. I can see Jennings. I like Jennings getting like 4 or 5 passes.
Yeah, I think he's an okay play. I do like the guys. I take probably even Pierre Thomas over him, and I do like Gore and Tate better too. So I don't think I'll have much Rashad Jennings. I see the merit there, just not someone I'm super high on.
Is anybody going to play Doug Martin? Probably not.
Not this guy.
Not that guy? How about that guy? SDL?
Not this guy either.
Any Detroit running back, Bell or Bush?
I'm staying away this week.
I am too, just until we see how that shakes out. Certainly, I think the production could be there for one or both of them. The trick is picking which one, especially since Detroit loves to throw. I just think there's other options at those kind of price points this week.
Le'Veon Bell?
I'm not going there.
Yeah, I'm not either. Cleveland's defense is sneaky decent.
Let me get your guys' opinion on one guy I'm considering. A guy I think will have a pretty low ownership. Shane Vereen for the Patriots. Probably a GPP thing, but do you guys like him at 6,100 on DraftKings?
Definitely only on DraftKings with the full PPR.
Yep.
I would say the same exact thing, yeah. It's hard to predict what's going to happen there with New England, but Vereen is probably good for. He can catch 10 passes.
We've seen him have monster games. I mean, he's got it in him.
Any other running backs you want to touch on before we move on? Again, we have limited time, but again, Dan will be coming in as well as Al and I think Tip and Pick as well. So in about 10 minutes or so, let's knock out some receivers. All right, is Demaryius Thomas your top receiver, or is it Calvin Johnson?
I think I'll take Thomas this week. I really like that matchup against the Colts. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. Both guys are probably going to get their production, but with Welker out and Decker gone, I think Demaryius Thomas is going to really make a push to be the top wideout this year.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think he's the number one guy. I think you'll see that reflected in ownership percentages. Calvin Johnson, I think, he's going to be under-owned today. You're just not hearing a lot about him in the preseason. You know, it is Megatron. Of course, people are going to have him, but he's kind of priced above everybody else. He's a tier above. You know, Demaryius Thomas, 8,100 on DraftKings. Calvin Johnson, 8,800. So you've got to pay to get him. I think you can afford him today, and I think that could be a good way to go. Sometimes, you've got to pay up for a guy to be a little contrarian.
I love me some Dez Bryant, probably for a tournament again, but I think Dez, he has a highest ceiling as anybody else today. Like I said, I love Dallas. If Dallas is going to keep up with San Francisco, it's probably going to be because of Dez Bryant. I can see him being an absolute monster.
Yeah, no problem with Dez. I like him a lot today. Dallas is going to need to score points in this game. Certainly Dez will be a big part of it if they do.
Which Bears receiver, Marshall or Jeffrey?
I like Brandon Marshall a little bit better, but for me, we'll get to these guys later. It's kind of the I'm going a lot of value at wide receiver today, so I don't have a ton of these top guys in my lineups. Certainly that's scary going in, but that's kind of the way that I'm just finding I'm building my lineups.
Cards?
Yeah, I'll still take Marshall, but it's going to be a matchup thing over the course of the year. If you try to pin down who's going to be covering those guys, I don't really think there's a big edge one way or the other this week. But I think both are in play. But I'm with DC. A lot of value at wide receiver this week.
Yeah, and wide receiver has the most variance, so that's where you can make up the most points. And you can get a guy's 3 or 4K, and there's no reason why you can't catch an 80-yard touchdown. We'll talk about those guys in a second. A few other guys that are high-priced. You mentioned Calvin Johnson. You don't expect he'll have much ownership. I say the same about A.J. Green. Is that true?
Yep, another guy that I think, just flying under the radar a little bit, but certainly we've seen him, he catches touchdown passes, huge red zone threat, and, I have no problem going there at all.
Same.
Crabtree. Again, we want to pick on Dallas. Crabtree is he's dinged. Is that an O next to him? He's out. Is that true?
No, that's a Q.
That's a Q, and it should be a P because he practiced in full all week.
He's gonna play.
Fine. He's fine.
I adjust the glasses there. I guess I'm a little too far away from the screen.
A few too many beers last night.
Yeah, we were a little drinky winky.
Yeah.
Michael Floyd. Any interest there, Michael Floyd?
Not for me.
Cards.
Nah, I don't have any exposure. I don't think the price is low enough to tempt me.
Either of the Atlanta guys.
I like Roddy White a lot.
I do too.
DraftKings at 5,900.
Same here. I think they're priced about right, but people will gravitate towards Julio now. Roddy's still going to get his targets, and assuming he's healthy, I like the price.
Give me the cheapies, guys. We only have 6 minutes to go. Give me the cheapies. Where are we looking? Marquise Lee.
Yeah, news that Cecil Shorts is going to be out. I think Marquise Lee is going to be on the field the vast majority of this game. I think the Jaguars will fall behind the Eagles and have to play catch-up. I could see Lee getting, 10, 11, 12 targets today. I like him. Cards, are you on the same page there?
Absolutely. I was really high on Kelvin Benjamin earlier in the week, but with the news that Cam Newton might not play, I'll be pivoting a lot of my Kelvin Benjamins down to Marquise Lee. Not that I don't like Benjamin, but just a little bit more limited with the quarterback play if Newton's out. That's a 4:25 game, so we won't know before kickoff. But yeah, I think Marquise Lee is a really good sleeper pick today. I'll direct this one at Dean since I know DC's not as high on the Rams. But if you're going Rams value wide receiver on DraftKings, you've got Kenny Britt at 4K and Brian Quick at 3,300. Any interest there?
I don't feel good about it, but maybe sort of somewhat. I know Brian Fontaine loves Quick. I talked to him last night.
Just ignore his analysis there. He's way too much of a Brian Quick fan.
I know, and he said no to Kenny Britt, like just shot him down like he doesn't exist, and I was like, I feel like Britt is a thing. I'm not completely writing him off. I could see Britt scoring a touchdown today and catching a long one. No, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not going any Rams players at all, to be honest. But
who are they playing again?
That's right, the Vikings and Cordarrelle Patterson. If you watched Thursday Night Football, you saw how the Seahawks utilized Percy Harvin. The Vikings are going to do the same thing with Cordarrelle Patterson today. He's going to get 10+ touches. He's going to be utilized on bubble screens. They are going to get him the ball. He's going to return kicks. I think he's got a huge upside today, and I think his floor is higher than people think. He's going to have a big year. I like him a lot today. Cards, are you on him at all?
I probably will be a little bit more than I am once I get done tweaking everything because I don't have much exposure to him, but I want a little bit, especially for GPPs. I mean, we've seen what he can do when he gets the ball in space. The only thing that he's got to work on is, when he's running routes and stuff, he really has trouble creating his own separation. But if they do a good job of getting him the ball, bubble screens and reverse sweeps, stuff like you just mentioned, obviously he's a threat to break one anytime he touches it.
Right. There are a lot of guys here to talk about. Ruben Randall, I think, is a good play. Emmanuel Sanders, no secret on him, obviously with Welker out. I think he's going to be perhaps the most popular wide receiver on DraftKings. I assume you like him, Dean?
Yeah, 4.8K. I think you just got to lock and load him in your cash games. There might be some merit to fading him in your tournaments because, again, what is he going to be in tournaments? At least 30% owned? Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Cards, how are you handling Sanders? Lock and load cash games, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Not as much on FanDuel at 6,400. He's the same price as Eric Decker on FanDuel. I don't think he's a must play over there, but 4,800 on DraftKings, definitely. And another guy I think, make this the last pick of wide receivers, and we'll give some tight ends real quick. But I think Torrey Smith might be a little sneaky too for tournaments. Definitely a guy that can break a long touchdown. He's cheap on DraftKings.
Tight ends, Jimmy Graham, are you paying up for him?
Yep.
Okay, easy enough. Cards?
I think he's the play if you want to spend. Julius Thomas is kind of cheap on DraftKings, so I like him too. And the big question, if Antonio Gates is out, it's not till Monday, but a massive, massive upgrade for Ladarius Green with how bad the Cardinals struggle against tight ends.
What's your hunch there, Cards? Gates play or no?
Let us know. We must know.
At this point, with his history, you almost have to assume no, don't you?
That's where I'm at. He misses games. Some players, they're banged up, they play. They're banged up, they play. Not necessarily the case with Gates. He's getting older. Certainly they want him healthy. And a hamstring, you hurt your hamstring. It's not really something that just gets better over 2 days. So I think he'll sit. Obviously, that's just pure speculation on my part. But that's my hunch. And, Green at 3,200, obviously a tremendous play if Gates is out of the lineup.
Ertz or Kelsey, either one, any interest?
I'd probably lean towards Ertz, but I don't have a ton of exposure to either guy. I think Ertz is going to be a little bit over-owned, but it's hard to ignore the price tag.
Yeah, there's just the Eagles are going to spread the ball around. It's hard to predict who can get the touchdowns there. I think 3 catches for 35 yards totally in play for Ertz. I'm a little scared of him, especially in GPPs. I think I'll be staying away.
All right, we have 1 minute. We're getting out of here. Give me your defenses. I like Detroit. I like the Jets. I don't mind Tampa. There you go. What do you guys got?
I'm on the same guys. I like the Patriots a little bit too.
Cards?
Yeah. Patriots are decent. Like Carolina, that Carolina-Tampa Bay game could be a nice little slugfest. Just to throw a little wrench in the thing, Roto World's the guy that does the weekly defense rankings over there has the Rams as the number 2 defense against those Vikings today.
Who are the Rams playing against this week?
The Vikings. Boo this man. Rams are getting put up.
Here's the deal, Cards. We're going to do an old school shift change. You're going to see nobody here for a second. Kill some time for a minute or so. I think you know how to do that because you just did it for like a half an hour. Kill some time. Some new faces are going to pop up for you. All right? Sound good? Actually,
all right.
Oh, never mind. You're leaving. Wait, no, you're sticking around. Keep that open, and here come some new people. All right.
All right. Shift change.
Good
All
luck,
right.
everybody.
Good luck today, Justin.
Thanks. You too, guys. Have fun.
He should be talking.
People in
All right.
chat asking about the
Justin, I'm
Eagles.
sorry. Sign off.
Yep. Sign off.
Yeah, my bad. Never mind. False alarm.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
Oh, that's